Hey, what's up, guys? I know a lot of y'all been asking for this, so we're gonna get to it. So we've been playing the PTR. We had I did the video a couple nights ago on day one of the PTR. Just kind of go over some thoughts, some expectations, but I really wanted to focus specifically on this build going into season 5 post PTR. Just the expectations of this build and how I kind of see it going. So currently, right now, you may not know if you're new to this video. Welcome, but this Bone Spirit build in Season 4 was our highest pusher. Definitely the strongest build, seeing 4 or 5 billion Spirit bombs in Season 4. Going into Season 5 in the PTR, we had some high expectations going in with some of the stuff we saw in the data mine. Well, once we got into the PTR and actually started seeing how these things interacted, I'm even more than excited than I was before, just simply because of all the interactions that these new items give us. So really, there's been 3 changes to the build. If you've seen the other build, you may notice that we're down to only 4 minions. Well, the reason for those is we still get the 28% or 28 max essence for this, but really it's also going to be a couple other reasons. Just getting the fortify from them, creating the corpses, and the corpses themselves. The build itself, and you'll at the end of this video, I'll have a quick 130 boss, a Sea Hag pit boss. It was a sub 2-minute kill. The damage is absolutely outrageous. Currently, the highest hit that I've gotten so far on the PTR is 10 billion, with an average of around 7-ish. But the 10 billion hit was pretty massive. So let's kind of get into this, talk about what's the new changes for this, what's really starting to impact this build, and kind of just some of my thoughts for going into Season 5. This is definitely going to be the build that I run in Season 5 as it stands right now. This build's going to be incredible going into Season 5. And currently, of the builds that are on the test server that we've seen, not including all the new uniques, that are the old uniques that are going to get revisions, this one is definitely the strongest build we have out right now. And if any of y'all seen any of the updates on Ebon Piercer, it's just the damage is abysmal. Bone Spear's doing much better in the PTR with a couple of the new items. Blood doing marginally better. Shadow is just in the toilet. So this build just is absolutely standing out even more than it did in Season 4. So let's jump into it. Paragon is staying exactly the same. We've switched up. I switched up the skill trees a little bit for primarily I wanted to get more into the Grim Harvest just for a little bit of essence because we are losing some essence generation in this build, and I'm going to explain that here in just a second. But one thing you may notice that we are already at 28, with it easy to get to 30 with the current gear. So we're looking at 30 spirit ranks. You may also notice a big change here of getting Compound Fracture. This was not included in the previous version just because getting 10 crit strikes from a Bone Spirit was not necessarily something that was easy to do. By the time you got 10 in, it was just for 5 seconds and you get a couple off. But now, with the current setup, explain again how that works, we're getting these Compound Fractures up all the time. With us having Seal the Macabre on the chest, I dropped all of the points in here so I could get some of those back. And I dropped a couple out of Necrotic Carapace, but the rest is going to remain the same. So again, the Paragon stayed the same. The skills were slightly changed to get primarily more Essence and pick up Essence Regen and pick up Compound Fracture. So for the gear itself, 2 major new changes in terms of uniques. Previously, we were running the Blood Getters on the hat for the 21% bonus from the Priest, as well as the additional heal. And our hat was this one right here. We had the max resource, essence per second, and we used, on my build, I used it for the armor slot. You could, again, as discussed previously, you can use your armor slot for on your chest or your gloves, whichever it fit. But with the new uniques, we don't have to do that anymore, which also frees up another slot on one of your other pieces of gear. So on this item, this is incredible. It's everything that we want in this build other than the lucky hit chance. So we get the additional max life. It is a higher roll of max essence, because as you may look at previously on this, on the legendary helmet, a double crit roll on a maxed GA equals a not perfect roll, only 1 crit for masterworking, the same amount of max resource. We're also getting skill ranks on this helmet, which is massive. And of course, max life, just we already want that. And lucky hit chance doesn't really matter too much at all. What is important, though, is to note that we do get this bonus from the aspect on those hats. So this is a huge bonus. We're constantly using spenders, whether it be Curse or Bone Spirit itself, so we always have this buff running. The next one is going to be our boots, the Tragoul Boots. Bone Spirit ranks, Bone Prison cooldown, movement speed, and it has armor. So we're picking up the armor ranks. Now, while this is not going to roll as high as our boots, which were Bone Spirit boots, the bonus from our other stats on this, as well as the aspect which we're about to go through, more than make up for losing a couple of ranks of Bone Spirit. This also has the innate armor roll, which means we can utilize one of our other stats on our other pieces of gear for another int roll or a max HP roll. So, the Bone Prison aspect itself, there's two things that are very important for this. The first one is going to just be the size. Why the size is important, is we'll talk about in a second, is going to be for the aspect itself, the new aspect we got. But the other thing that these boots do is it's going to grant us additional max essence for every time we have Bone Spirit or Bone Prison active. So I'll let these go down. And it also is going to proc our Compound Fracture and increase those stacks. So by casting it, you're going to start seeing that our Compound Fracture ranks go up immediately. And we already get that, and it begins to regen, and it's up again before the Bone Prison's down. The other thing you see here is the max essence going up. So now that we have a different setup, our standalone max essence with potion, in this setup, we're sitting at about 254. We have to get to the 275 mark to make this build function. So how this is impactful is, as soon as you cast it, we get the Requiem bonus, but we also start to get the stacks based off of the amount of splinters that are on this legendary item. And the great thing about it is these stacks continue to stay even after Bone Prison is down, so we're going to keep the max essence from that all the way through. And by the time it recharges, not including our ossified or rapid ossification, Bone Prison is always up. We always have the additional essence, so we're always over the threshold, and we're getting the Compound Fracture ranks continually. The other reason this is important in the size is coming from our new aspect. The new aspect is incredible. This is where we're seeing the majority of the new damage from this build. What this does is when a Bone Spirit activates on or hits an enemy inside your Bone Prison, we're going to get a second cast. So as you see here, 1, 2, we get back-to-back Bone Spirits, and this is where you start to see that massive damage. So that was just a quick 3 mil with no buffs. Not bad at all. So the new aspect is incredible. The big hit that I did see this week was a 6.2 followed by a 4 point something. So it was 10 bill total for one single spirit cast. And this is super important for fighting bosses too when you're on crunch for time and you want to make sure that you're effectively using your Bone Spirits. Getting 2 of them in those windows for the price of 1 is incredibly strong. One other thing to note that I am going to be changing into Season 5 that I did not have previously because it didn't really matter, is chance to cast Splinters twice instead of the Bone Prison Explosion size. I'm big on the Bone Prison Explosion size because when we're clearing, it's really important, but now that we've got the opportunity to get more essence, this does proc off of double, the boots do proc off of double Splinters, so in a perfect world, you would have 30 Bone Splinters proccing twice. You would have 60 Bone Splinters, all at 2 max essence, sitting at 120 max essence on top of what we've already got. So in the case of this build, we would be sitting at 380 just from having those extra Splinters, not including Bone Graft, not including Requiem for the Bone Prison itself. So we would be at almost 200 max essence in addition to our 261. So I don't have the best roll, so you can take into account that 10 billion is going to get an additional billion DPS from this once we're fully min-maxed and have all the correct affixes on from our tempers. So overall, going into Season 5, this build is hands down going to shine above everything else right now. I do foresee that there could be some tweaks to this, but it's going to take some major tweaks to bring this back down to competing with other builds or other builds competing with this one. They have also said that all of our old uniques are going to get touched up and made better. They're going to get some type of power enhancement. So what does that mean for Blood Moon? Yes, Blood Moon was increased from 70% to 100%, was about 40% damage increase for the boots or the legs themselves. But Banished Lord's Talisman was not touched. Does that mean the roll of this increased damage is going to go up to 100%, and we're going to see an additional 60% damage increase from this? So I don't know. We do have a lot of changes that are coming, but they have said that all of the old uniques are going to get touched in some way. So while this could get nerfed a little bit, it's also going to get buffed too, just from knowing what we know about coming up for the future of these old uniques that are going to be looked at. Alright, so let's go over the aspects themselves and what are left in this build. So while we've replaced Bloodgetters with our Crown of Lucion, and we've replaced the Cult Dominion and lost 2 Reapers for this, it more than makes up for it. The aspects that are remaining in the build are going to be Sacrificial, because that's also going to boost our crit damage and our multiplier from the crit hit, and also the multiplier from the overpower hit. We're also using the Imprisoned Spirits to get that second Bone Spirit cast. We still have Grasping Veins for its multiplier and crit chance. We have Torment, of course, for the regen, and we got Requiem for the additional essence, and then, of course, we're keeping Hardened Bones for our DR. And that's pretty much all the changes to the build. If you've got any questions, if you got anything you think could improve this, if you see any way that you may want to modify it, or if you're testing this yourself, I'd love to hear about it. I'm super excited about this, and I do appreciate you guys watching as always, and enjoy this quick 2-minute sea hack fight. And thank y'all for watching.